Stop making these mistakes with your credit card. I know you're making them, and I've made them too. I've got the top 10 mistakes that people make with their credit card in this video right now, so let's get into it. Now here's the first fun fact of this video. Do you know what this is? Have you ever seen this before? This is something that's called a charge plate, and these were used prior to credit cards. They were used until about the 1960s when they got replaced by the first credit cards. Charge plates were only given to people that were trusted customers at these certain stores. These acted very similar to credit cards. They allowed you to buy groceries or buy different things and pay it off over time. That's just one fun fact about credit cards. The first mistake that you're making on your credit card is you're buying things that you can't afford. And it's a very easy thing to do, especially now with one-click buying on all these websites. You're able to buy things easier than ever, and you don't even think about it because you're like, it's just going on my credit card.
Hey, do you mind paying for this? I don't have any cash.
Sure, I'll just put it on my credit card. I'm never gonna pay it back anyway. 'Cause I have $30,000 in credit card debt.
I know I've done that. Have you? Let me know down in the comments below. What did you buy? Was it something you needed? Was it something you just wanted? But what ends up happening? You start getting into that habit of buying things you can't afford, and then you can't afford paying it off, and you end up getting a bunch of interest charged to your credit card. Most credit cards will have an interest rate of 18% if you're very lucky and have very good credit, or most of the time people have about 25 to 30% in interest rates on their credit card. So that means if you bought a $1,000 product, you're paying 20 or 30% interest every single year on that amount. And probably most of you haven't made this in the last year or so due to the pandemic, but going on a trip that you can't afford, you just smack that $4,000 vacation onto your credit card, and then you come home from a relaxing vacation and start stressing about how to get that paid off. So then you're thinking, once you get it paid off, you need a nice relaxing vacation again because you're so stressed from the credit card debt. So that's how people can kind of get in these cycles, is they justify the purchases. They justify what they're spending because of what they're going through or the stress that they're going through. I mean, I know this because this is what I did for a lot of my life with a credit card. So make sure you're not buying things that you can't afford. If you wouldn't buy it on your debit card, then you shouldn't buy it on a credit card. So make sure you're not making this mistake anymore. And if you enjoy this video, definitely make sure to smash that like button and subscribe for more content. So let's get back into the mistakes that you're making on your credit card today. The second mistake you're making with your credit card is paying only the minimum payment on your credit card. Now this is obviously tough if you have a limited income and your credit card payment is relatively high. I know it can be tough to get your payments under control. I got in that cycle too when I wasn't making a lot of money and I had a high credit card payment. If anyone ever told me that I should be making more than the minimum payment, I would say, of course I would. If I had the money, I would pay more. So I know there's a lot of people in this situation. However, it's definitely worth your money to figure out your budget, make extra income if you can, and pay at least double what the minimum payment is. And I know people that have made the minimum payment on their credit card for years and still owe nearly as much as they did 5 years ago. This is all because of interest and late fees and things like that. So make sure you're not getting stuck in this trap of paying thousands and thousands of dollars of interest for a $1,000 purchase you may have made a year, 5 years ago. And this goes back into the previous mistake, is buying things that you can't afford. This is exactly what's going to happen. You'll be getting the minimum payment and you won't be able to pay for it. You'll get stuck in the trap of paying thousands of dollars of interest every single year when you could be taking this money and just saving it or investing it somewhere else. So make sure if you're only paying the minimum payment today, figure out how you can get your finances in order so that you can pay at least above the minimum payment. In 2020, credit card debt in America was about $756 billion. The average credit card balance was $5,300. About 191 million Americans have at least one credit card, and there are almost 500 million credit card accounts. That means the average person has 2.5 credit cards. And I personally have 4 credit cards that I built up over the last 8 years. The next mistake you're making with your credit card is carrying a high credit balance every single month. This means you've got more on your credit card than you can pay off every single month. And this leads to paying a ton of interest. Let's take the example of if you have a $5,000 balance every single month on your credit card, that means you're going to be paying about $100 a month in just interest. And if your minimum payment is $125 or $150, that means you're only reducing that $5,000 amount by $25 to $50 each month, even though you're paying an extra $100. This is one reason that carrying a high credit card balance is a horrible idea. You'll be paying more in interest than you're spending. And here's another fun fact about credit cards. Did you know that credit card numbers can be validated through the Lund's algorithm? This means if you go from right to left on your credit card and double every other number and add them all up, the number should be divisible by 10. And if it's not, that means it's not a valid credit card number. And if it is a valid credit card number. That's just another fun fact about credit cards. So let's get back into the video on the mistakes that you're making today. So moving on to number 4. If your credit card is ever stolen or you ever lose your credit card, make sure to report it immediately. This is because due to the Fair Credit Billing Act, once you report your credit card stolen or lost, any purchases made on that credit card from there on, you're not liable for paying for. So make sure you report it immediately. Most credit cards, you can report it on the app even, and some of them even allow you to lock your credit or even your debit cards. Make sure you're taking the proper precautions so that you're protecting yourself. The 5th thing you're doing wrong is not knowing how much interest you're paying on your credit card. Is your APR 18%? Is it 20%? Is it 25%? Do you know what your APR is today? It's important to keep tabs on all of your information, all of your credit card information. And these are just habits that will make you good with money no matter whether it's a credit card or your regular finances. Knowing everything about your finances, about where your money is going, all of this really helps you win with money. And that's what I want you to do. I want you to be successful with money. Make sure you're not getting dragged around by these big credit card companies. So I hope you go and check your APR if you don't know what it is today. And then moving on to the next mistake. Do you know how these 0% introductory promotions work? Have you ever got one and you don't know what happens at the end of the 12-month promotion? Are you going to pay interest on everything you bought, or how does it work? And there are a couple of ways these 0% introductory rates work. For regular credit cards, you can have a 6-month 0% interest, 12 months, 24 months, or maybe even longer than that. And this just means that any purchases that you make on your credit card, you will not pay any interest on, even if you didn't pay them off in the 2 year. However, once you get to the end of the promotional period, you would start accruing interest on whatever the balance is on the end of that date. However, the second kind of promotional credit card that can really get you is one offered by a retailer. Maybe you've seen credit card offers from Best Buy or Home Depot or one of these other stores that say no interest if paid in full in 6 months or paid in full in 12 months or whatever the term is. And this a lot of times is to get you to buy bigger items like a laptop. You can even have a roof put on your house using one of these kinds of credit cards. But the way these are worded are no interest if paid in full by 6 months. Meaning if you use the promotion to charge $1,000 on the credit card and then it was for 6 months of no interest if paid in full. If you got to 6 months in 1 day, even if you had only $100 remaining of the $1,000 to pay back, you would have to pay all of the interest that would have accrued on that $1,000 purchase at the end. So hundreds of dollars of interest could be thrown at you for just a little bit of debt if you didn't finish paying it off. So make sure if you ever take one of these, which I would avoid doing, but if you have ever taken one of these already, then make sure to get it paid in full no matter what, so you're not paying hundreds or even thousands of dollars of interest at the end. So make sure you know all the details on these 0% promotional offers. And the next major thing you're doing wrong with your credit card is taking a cash advance. These are the worst things you can do. And I know this because I used to do this all the time. And I would never recommend doing this. So when you make purchases on your credit card regularly, you have a 30-day grace period where you won't get charged any interest on that purchase. However, when you take a cash advance, you start accruing that 27-28% interest immediately. And usually the interest for cash advances can be a couple percent higher than your regular interest on your credit card. And these are also coupled with fees, which could be 5% of the amount that you're taking out. So avoid taking out a cash advance at all costs, because this will only set you back even further in your credit card journey. Don't get caught in the trap. And now moving on to the next, missing a payment. Obviously, missing a payment on anything is not good, and with a credit card, it's no different. So make sure you're not missing a payment on your credit card to avoid fees, and then to avoid going 30 days past due or more, because they will report this negative information on your credit report, which will have a detrimental effect on your credit score. And this is something you can't just fix overnight. It'll take several years for this to drop off your credit score. So definitely make sure you're not missing any payments. I personally keep everything on auto pay so I never miss a payment. And if you can do that, I would definitely advise that you do that as well. And now moving on to the next mistake, applying for too many credit cards. Make sure that you're not applying for more than one credit card at the very minimum every 6 months. This is because if you start applying for multiple credit cards in a short period of time, then you're going to have a negative impact on your credit score, because lenders are going to see this and see that you're looking for credit, which usually means that you're in financial hardship, which makes it less and less likely for you to get a loan or a credit card from a lender in the future. And usually you'll get denied for a credit card if you apply too quickly in between anyways. And then you also want to avoid having too high of a credit limit. You generally don't want to have a higher credit limit than your monthly expenses. This is so you don't start spending too much and get out of control and get into the hole of credit card debt. You want to make sure that whatever your monthly spending is on a credit card, you can afford to pay it every single month. And if you've been paying attention, which I hope you have been, so smash that like button down below if you have been, you've seen that the biggest theme here is making sure you're not spending too much money on your credit card. This is such an important overall factor in being successful with money. You don't want to get into debt, especially credit card debt. Credit card debt is among the worst debts you can get into because of the insanely high interest that you're paying. So don't have too much credit if you don't need it. And now moving on to the last mistake you're making with credit cards is closing a credit card that you don't use anymore. As long as you have a credit card that isn't charging you an annual fee, then you should be fine to keep the credit card open and active so that it doesn't get dropped off of your credit history. And as I mentioned in my video where I talk about getting an 800 or above credit score, the longer your average age of accounts are, the higher your credit score will be. So whenever you open an account or you close an account, that's going to have a negative impact on that factor on your credit score. So make sure you don't close any credit accounts that you don't need to. And so wrapping up, every single mistake I listed here, I have personally made in the past. So I know from experience the negative impact that these have on your credit journey, on your winning with money journey, and just overall being successful with money. So make sure you're not making the same mistakes that I made in the past. So I hope this video has been helpful, and if it has, definitely smash that like button down below. Let me know what you thought. Let me know if you've made any of these mistakes. Let me know what mistakes you've made down in the comments below. And if you enjoy this kind of content, I make finance videos and real estate investing videos, and every single week I release multiple videos on these topics. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell to make sure you're updated when I release new content. And thank you so much for watching this video.